For C, the transformation is a little bit more difficult. So what I'm going to do is do a table of values, and I need to have a table of values, and I need to know really where is that boundary point or the reference point that I need. So I know that this is going to be, for the outside, it's going to be flipped upside down and shifted up 3. Okay, so to figure out where that coordinate is, really, I need to kind of go backwards. I need to go down 3 and then flip it upside down. So that's going to be at positive 3. So that point that I've drawn in purple here is going to be my reference point. Okay, the x coordinate's about 2.2. If we actually use the equation, we can actually get a more accurate one, but we're just going to use 2.2 as our reference. So I'm going to put that into my table. X is going to be 2.2 and 3, and then I'm going to use the other side because it's symmetrical. Okay, and we're going to transform these coordinates. So I want to know what happens to this. I want to flip it and shift it up 3. That's going to get me to my zeros here, and that's going to give me the reference points where I can start graphing it. It's also been horizontally compressed by 2, so I'm going to take those coordinates and I'm going to compress them by 2. So basically my references are going to be at those points, okay, so about 1.1, negative 1.1, and I know that this graph has been, was flipped upside down first before I compressed it, before I compressed that function. Now, when this happens, we have to be careful because we know that the part that's now below, because it got flipped, the part that was below is the part that I really want. So if I take a look at the graph, it's going to flip. So that's going to be now my positive part, and it's going to be shifted up. Okay, so that part is the part that I really want now. That's the part that's going to show up as, because that's the part I'm allowed to square root. So I'm going to take that reference of negative 2. I'm going to flip it. Okay, so I'm going to put that into my reference. So 0, negative 2. I'm going to flip it and add 5. So that's going to be at that point there. And that point then represents the vertex part. And that's going to give me my vertical, my flip, using the bottom half of the parabola now instead of the top. And now I'm going to, when I shift it and then do my square root, I'm going to compress it down. And this coordinate here works out to be root 5. Okay, so lastly, D. When I do D, this has a bunch of stuff going on. So again, we want to make sure that we have some references to work with. So I'm going to make a table of values. And I know that it got expanded by 2 and then shifted down 3. So that means when I take a look at my graph, I need to go kind of do it backwards. I need to shift it up 3 and compress it by 2. And that gives me the y coordinate of 1.5. So this black coordinate here, I'm just going to maybe mark it in green. That green coordinate now represents the reference point of where I'm going to start my graph. That's where the graph's going to cut off. The square root's going to cut off the negative and use the positive. So that's going to be in my table of values. So negative about 1.9 and 1.5. Okay, and positive 1.9 and 1.5 represents the boundary points of where I'm going to start my graph. So when I do my transformation, we're going to times it by 2. So actually, before I think of that, I'm going to do my inside transformation. So when I flip it, basically those two coordinates flip, so we just stay the same place. Okay, so the positive flips to the negative, negative flips to a positive, but because of the symmetry, it's just going to stay the same. So I've kind of taken care of my x's. So I need to do a minus 3 and times by 2 to get me back to the 0. So minus 3 times by 2. Okay, so going to be, minus 3 times by 2 is going to get me to negative 3. Okay, so that's going to give me my coordinates at negative 3, and then I can show my transformation from there. So negative 1.9 and 3, negative 3, so that's going to be negative 1.9. That's negative 3. And this is going to be, it's going upwards because it hasn't been flipped. It's going to be slightly vertically expanded as well by a factor of 2 because we multiplied by 2 first and then bent the graph down.